Hi, my name is Ray Zahab. I'm a professional explorer and the founder of the nonprofit organization Impossible to Possible. My most recent adventure was a summer crossing of the widest point west to east of Death Valley, distance of a little over 130 kilometers, took us close to 35 hours in incredible heat and nasty terrain. Key pieces for me when I'm preparing for an adventure, I guess the number one key piece would be what I'm wearing on my back. What am I going to carry everything in? So backpack is number one. Number two is the clothing that I'm wearing in such an extremely hot environment like Death Valley specifically. Number three is, of course, how am I going to get or stay hydrated? Because literally, it is so hot that I'm drinking upwards of 8 liters every 30 kilometers on a resupply. You know, I personally obsess over gear probably more than the average person does. I weigh everything 5 times. Expeditions for me can range from a non-stop adventure like I just did over the course of 35, 40, 50 hours, but it can also be 100 days. So whether I'm moving fast and light or I'm moving for the long haul, every gram counts. So I weigh everything, I pick my gear methodically. I'm very invested in the gear that I use. Temperature changes are fundamental to every expedition that I do because I do choose to most of my Arctic expeditions, I go in the middle of winter, coldest time of year. And I cross most of my desert expeditions in the summer at the hottest time of year. In Death Valley, I was there in July, and I'm fully prepared for temperatures, daytime temperatures that can reach 50 plus degrees Celsius without a problem. But you know what's interesting? Something that nobody or people rarely consider is at night, when it drops to 100 Fahrenheit or 95 Fahrenheit in the mountains in Death Valley, that's still really hot by our Canadian standards. But when it's been 120 during the day and you've been exposed to the sun, 100 feet can feel really, really cold. So you have to be prepared for that temperature shift, and not necessarily what the actual air temperature is in that case, but how my body feels in that temperature. You can go hypothermic well above 0 degrees Celsius. You know, typically I test all of my gear, but there are some items that I know fit well, work well for me, where there's 100% trust factor. You know, case in point would be either like my Canada Goose jackets, for example, for the colder weather. I know the fit, I know exactly how it's gonna work for me. I know it's gonna function really well, etc. Another example is my Norda running shoes. This is the Norda RZ001. I can wear this shoe straight out of the box. I cross Death Valley without any socks. I prefer to run in the desert without socks. I like the lightness and the breathability of that. No blisters, right? In some of the most heinous terrain on the planet. These were more or less brand new when I started. I think I had like 1 run in them. It's that trust factor. When you know something really works well for you, you don't change it, you know? You know, it's incredible. Nowadays, we have access to so much technology, right? I mean, we all have smartphones. My iPhone doubles as a GPS, and I'm able to read maps, navigate in the remotest parts of the world offline using my iPhone, right? Which is an extraordinary leap. I can recharge that with a solar panel in the field. I use various satellite technologies to connect my expeditions live streamed to classrooms. I mean, we have the ability to do these things now. It's extraordinary. You know, some of the more random items in Death Valley that I was carrying for safety, we were super remote in Death Valley, crossing through mountain passes and slot canyons, alluvial fans, and wide open valleys, 30 kilometers between resupplies, and in extreme heat, in extreme conditions, difficult terrain. So I carry this Garmin InReach Explorer, and they have various versions of it. They have this one, the Explorer Plus, they have the Mini, which you can find on the Altitude website. And this enables my family, or anyone else who wants to follow along that I share the link with to follow me, know exactly where I am in real time, but also doubles as a safety device because there is an SOS button in case of rescue. And also I'm able to communicate back and forth with others through this device to let them know I'm okay, etc. So whether I'm on unsupported expedition in the middle of the Arctic and I'm alone, or I'm seeing a crew as I was in Death Valley of 2 people, but seeing them every 30 kilometers, they have sort of an idea where I'm at. The other one that's really cool is this. And I love asking people, do you know what this does? This records weather data the entire time that we were on our transect across Death Valley. This Kestrel device recorded relative humidity, temperature, all logged along our GPS route. So we're able to take that information, that accurate weather data, and create a story of the desert ecosystem and tie it together with photos and videos that we made for our Impossible to Possible classrooms that are following along in the fall. We'll have it all that content ready. On this expedition in particular, I chose to use the Osprey Duro 15 pack. They have a women's specific, the Dyna 15 as well. This pack is extraordinary. I mean, I'm able to pack a ton of stuff in here. What we were shocked the most about is we would be carrying in this pack 5 liters of water for between each resupply, food, emergency equipment, satellite 2-way radio, et cetera, and still run with the pack on. So I love the design of this pack. It's thoughtful, it has lots of pockets, it's accessible, and it's not bouncing all over the place, which drives me nuts, right? So anyhow, that's my pack that I used. So it's fun. I have a lot of Death Valley scorpion stories. What's critical in Death Valley, really good headlamp when you're moving at night. The Death Valley adventures that I've done, very quickly, north to south, over the course of 4.5 days in 2011, west to east in 2019 through the Panamint Range and the Amargosa Mountain Ranges. Most recently, I crossed Death Valley, of course, at its widest point, right? This is just this past summer. I'm moving nonstop, and that means having a really good headlamp at night to see what's around. Obviously, you want to see the rocks, and you want to see the obstacles. I mean, there's giant rock walls you got to get around. There's stuff to get around that you have to see to move around safely. But that's not the main reason to wear the headlamp. The main reason to wear the headlamp is to see the rattlesnakes, the sidewinders, the scorpions. You don't want to step on any of these items because it may be not only an adventure ender, but a life ender. On one of the Death Valley adventures I had done in a previous year, I was with my teammate Will on that expedition. And as we were moving across the middle of Death Valley, we were exhausted. We'd been out for days. It was a longer trip. And we saw 2 or 3 scorpions scurrying around. Look at that scorpion, that freaked me out. Let's avoid those. And we go off this way, and then we saw 5 or 6 scorpions. Within minutes, the desert floor was literally covered in thousands of scorpions. It was like an Indiana Jones movie or something. It was crazy. And so we're standing in the middle of all of these scorpions, and I was like, no, this is not happening. I'm not doing this. You were literally having to step and be careful. And they had all the stingers on. It was insane. So we had to backtrack from where we came and we set camp in a safe space. Do you know that we have talked with the scientists in that area, the National Park Service, the rangers? Nobody has been able to come up with a reason why we saw what we saw. And we were in a part of Death Valley again, like with all these trips that I do, no one would have any reason to go there. So maybe this is a regular occurrence, who knows, right? But we just happened to be there at the right time, right? Right, wrong time. If I was to describe this current adventure across Death Valley in one word, I'm gonna use a word that gets used too much, but it was epic because it had everything. The beauty of the desert, it's astonishing at night. There was the risks involved. There was the uncertainty if we could get this done. There were goals achieved to celebrate. There was the camaraderie of being with my teammate and doing something together for the first time in years since the pandemic. Yeah, truly it was an epic experience.